Congratulations, you have made it to Module 4. And in all honesty, give yourself a pat on the back because you have now done the bulk of the work required to build an effective school counseling program framework. You really have. Here's a quick reflection. In Module 1, you created a foundational document that shows that you have an organized school counseling program. In Module 2, you updated information about your school counseling program for your annual update and set some measurable student outcome goals to show that your program is focused, not so much on what you do, but on student success. And in Module 3, you created lesson plans to implement your action plan showing exactly how you are proactively working to positively impact students. Here in Module 4, the core idea is a little different. It's to increase the level of support for your school counseling program. Support both from your administration, your principal especially, and if you choose, the level of support from your community. To do this, Module 4 proposes 2 steps: an annual meeting with your administration, which is typically a short meeting with your school principal, and at least 1 annual meeting with an advisory council that you create just for your school counseling program. I probably don't have to tell you why these optional steps are important, but let me give you 2 thoughts. First, I worked for a time as one of our state school counseling specialists, and every year I would get a call from a handful of school counselors whose positions were sadly threatened for cutbacks or elimination. Inevitably, the counselors would ask, is there anything I can do to advocate for my position? Now, school counselors can and should advocate for their school counseling programs and positions, but often the best advocates are others, especially your principal or your parents, any of your members of your school counseling advisory council. So if your position is ever threatened, and hopefully it will never be, you still want to have those people as your advocates. A second reason can kind of be summed up in one word, and that's COVID. We've all either heard about or read about contentious school board meetings about mask wearing that somehow turned into discussions about social emotional learning and suspicions about what those school counselors are doing, etc. More than once, I've heard school counselors tell me, thank goodness we have an advisory council with parents who know what we do and why we do it, because it's the parents and community members on our advisory council that have become the best defenders of our counseling program. So in Module 4, we first talk about the importance of an annual meeting with your school principal. The actual meeting will require very little on your part. We recommend trying to schedule at least a 15 to 30-minute meeting between you, any other counselors in your program, and your school leader and his or her administrative team, preferably somewhere toward the beginning of the school year, but after you have completed the work of Modules 1, 2, and 3. Before your meeting, print copies of your annual update and make sure to have enough copies for yourself, for your principal, and anyone else attending the meeting. When you meet, we suggest a few steps summarized in the sample agenda provided in Step A2. That includes 5 parts. First, a brief summary of the purpose of the meeting, which starts with a thank you to your administrator and his or her team for making the time to meet with you, then follows with a quick explanation of the main purpose of the meeting, which is really twofold: to provide a quick update of the school counseling program and to gather any feedback from your principal about your program's organization, focus, and or action plan for the year. We then suggest you provide a 1 or 2 minute update of your school counseling program using your annual update report. Actually, walk through the report, briefly describing your current counseling staff, caseload of students, current student counselor ratios, how you spent your time last year, where you hope to spend your time this year, which includes a quick reminder of the services that you provide through your school counseling program. Then share with your principal your annual calendar, which shows that you have proactively scheduled classroom lessons, parent nights, and other events over the entire school year. Step 3 of your agenda continues this discussion and suggests that you concentrate next on your school counseling program's focus, including how you reviewed the most recent available student data to identify and prioritize the 2 or 3 student priority needs that turned into your student outcome goals and subsequent SMART goals. Then wrap up Step 3 with a short summary of how you and your team brainstormed root causes for the priority needs you identified and developed some suggested strategies. Here, right at the end of Step 3, you'll want to pause and ask your administrator and his or her team what their thoughts are. What do they think about the priority needs you identified and the student outcome goals you developed? Do they have ideas of other possible root causes or other possible strategies that fall within the realm of the school counseling program? Note that this part of the process can honestly be a little bit scary, especially if you like to have things all kind of tied up and sequential. Who knows what your principal might say, right? That's why you need to be prepared in case your principal says something like, don't focus on these goals or these strategies, but focus on something entirely different or different focus. If this happens, try to be patient. Try to use your best active listening skills and understand what the administrator is saying before disagreeing or making any promises. Ask clarifying questions to get a clearer understanding of what is being suggested. Worst case scenario, you say something like, these are good ideas that we'll need to discuss and consider. It may just be that your principal needs to feel they have been heard and that they are ultimately fine with the goals you are proposing. If your principal actually requests that you readjust your student outcome goals or strategies or change them in order to align with what he or she feels should be the top priority or priorities, try to be as accommodating as you can. Yes, it's a pain, but when you have to adjust your goals or strategies based on your principal's input, you actually end up creating a stronger level of support and buy-in from your school counseling program or for your school counseling program. Simply by asking for your principal's input and then acting on that input, you will create stronger buy-in and support for your school counseling program. Yes, it might be a bit more work for you, but it is a win for the degree of support you'll garner for the counseling program. Note that if you're asked by your administrator or team to do something specific that requires a greater time commitment, this is a good time to go back to the use of time estimates on your annual update sheet. Indicate what services and time percentages would have to shift in order to make this happen. If, for example, you spend a percentage of your time on non-counseling tasks, this is a great place to ask, well, can we eliminate or shift some of the non-counseling tasks in order to gain the extra time we need to complete this additional responsibility? Even if the answer is no, your administrative team will understand that any new suggestions of time commitments that they ask from you will require a shift in the delivery of services somewhere. More than likely, the discussion with your principal will result in a thoughtful conversation about the best ways to improve student attendance or achievement or behavior, and thereby strengthening the perception and the reality that your school counseling program is an extension of the goals and efforts of the administrator's office. At the very end of your meeting, no matter how it goes, thank the principal and his or her team for their input and suggestions, and then wrap it up. Try to be quick on the entry and the exit in your meeting. If you need to make some changes to your annual update based on the discussion at your annual administrative meeting, be sure to make those changes fairly quickly and send the revised document to your principal as soon as possible. Depending on your principal's style, you may have an implied green light to go ahead as you plan, or you may want to have your principal sign off on your annual update and your action plan just to have a record of their endorsement or support. Your principal also may want more details. If so, feel free to share your action plan document with them that shows not only your student outcome goals, but the associated student standards and student learning objectives. Note that the sample agenda in step A2 is in a Google Doc. To make edits or changes to the agenda, which you will want to do, simply click on File, make a copy, then rename it and save it to your own Google folder. In step A3, you can upload the document if you wish so that it stays within the Ramp Ready system for easy access by you or others in the future. To wrap up this video with an action step, we suggest that you either email your principal or contact his or her scheduler right now to schedule a meeting, or put a recurring annual reminder on your calendar to make sure this gets done every year.